My tendency when really stressed out is to just shut down and not be able to do anything. But instead of doing that right now, I'm just gonna dig. When I was younger, I spent a long time wanting to get into real estate and finally ended up buying a house in Pittsburgh because it was cheap and I was able to renovate it and then rent it out. And it's been rented out for the last 2 years. And then we just found out today that the renter has done about $50,000 in damage to it. We live on the West Coast and I'd been looking for property for a good long time. Investment property to rent out, build passive income, blah, 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 all that. Could not figure out any way to make the numbers work over here. Houses were too expensive, rents were too low. So one day I got an email from Zillow that was like, here is a market report for your area. And I thought, wait a minute, if there's a market report for my area, there's got to be a market report for all areas. So I looked up the best buyers markets in the country. Pittsburgh came up as one of them. So we flew over, stayed for about a week, checked out the area, talked to some real estate agents. One of them was showing us some houses and I was asking her, I was like, why are there whole neighborhoods of houses over here that are so cheap? You can find neighborhoods of houses for perfectly good, like blue collar houses, $50,000, $60,000. People live in them, decent neighborhoods. You know, it's nothing fancy, but I lived there. I did live there. So I asked, why are houses here so cheap? And she said, why are houses where you're from so expensive? I thought that makes sense. West Coast, California, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, Seattle, Microsoft, moving into Portland, Oregon. There's lots of tech companies there. Meanwhile, when was the last time you thought about Pittsburgh? Well, it just looks like the water's making the bottom of the tank muddy, so I guess I'm going to ditch that. So we said great. We contracted the real estate agent, headed back to Oregon, and she did video walkthroughs of all the houses that we were interested in that we found on Zillow. We found a house that we liked. She did a video walkthrough and everything looked great. Unfortunately, she didn't do a video walkthrough of the basement. Apparently the owner of the house had passed and her family was trying to sell it. It's a basement. How bad could it be? It was listed for $30,000. That's really good. It looked like it needed some light remodeling, some paint, updated bathroom, nothing too crazy. So I said, great, let's do it. There were several other properties that we had looked at and wanted to put in offers on, but we got beat out by other people who didn't have inspections and just had better, quicker offers. So we didn't get an inspection on this one. We didn't figure it really mattered because we were paying cash anyway. Sold a bunch of stock from the tech company I was working at the time to get the money. It was $60,000 in stock we sold, and we were willing to lose it too. We thought it's a big risk. It's something we want to do. You know, even if we lose all the money, it's going to be a good learning experience, and then hopefully that education could be a worthwhile experience, and we'd learn a lot from it. So we bought the property, and I took 3 weeks off of work. It was all my vacation time that I'd saved up for like 4 years to go try and renovate this house. So I get there, I rent a car, and go to the house. It looked livable. Honestly, I figured I'd stay in the house. Turns out it had been vacant for a year and a half. All the utilities were off. A pipe had burst, one of the gas lines had burst, and the basement flooded, and it was completely moldy. So I had to spend those 3 weeks living in a hotel, which was a cost that I didn't anticipate. I mean, that's fine. My fault for not double checking the basement, right? So in the 3 weeks I was there, I was able to get the gas line turned back on, which was a problem that I won't go into. Get all the utilities back on and get it to where it was livable. Molly and I discussed it and I flew back. God, come on, bugs, seriously. I don't have a lot of... We loaded the kids and a bunch of stuff up in our minivan and drove back to Pittsburgh. We lived there for 3 months while I worked in my work and renovated the house on basically every free moment I had. It was a fairly decent neighborhood other than the cops coming in. It's a story for another time though. So we finally got it ready to rent out. Came back to Oregon and hired a property management company. I could only find 2 that managed that area. The first one was busy and had just taken on a big client with a bunch of houses. They were my first choice. I should have held out for them. And then the other one, which seemed fine enough. I made it clear that I was across the country and needed someone that could take full management responsibilities for it. They went with a 10% cut. I was like, that's fine. I just need you to make sure the house is good. They said they would. So now that we had that squared away, we took out a mortgage on the house. Our plan was to use the money from that mortgage to get another house in a similar area and start building our little real estate empire or whatever. The property manager came back with a potential tenant, a Mr. Damone, who had a 540 credit score. Said he was down on his luck, and apparently his income was 5 times what the rent was supposed to be. And the property manager said that he believed the guy's story and that he was just trying to turn his stuff around. And I said, yeah, sure. I mean, you're the property manager, right? You're the one who knows the area. I don't know, man. I'm all about giving people, second chances. I gotta say, this patch of dirt not being tremendously rocky is really the kind of break that I needed today. So anyway, we rented out to this guy, and I think pretty much immediately he started missing payments. He came up with at least the deposit money first and last, and whatever security deposit and all that kind of stuff. Pretty quickly after that, COVID happens. I had been in my remote position working at a tech company for 6 years, gotten several promotions, good raises, doing well. And then 3 weeks before COVID happens, I find out my remote position is being eliminated. And so now I have to find a new job. Meanwhile, this guy's position was also apparently eliminated, and so he couldn't pay rent anymore. Now, I'm like, fine. That makes sense. Lots of landlords were freaking out about not being able to evict people or raise rents or any of this kind of stuff. And a common response to that was, well, you should have had funds in reserve to be able to deal with a situation like this. And I did. We didn't touch that mortgage money. We were like, all right, that's fine. The guy's out of work, fucking global pandemic. Like, what are you going to do? So yeah, no worries. I didn't really care about trying to evict or whatever. I was like, just let him stay there, and if he can manage to keep the heat on, like, that's really all I care about. Let the guy live. So COVID starts, I lose my job. They eliminated 6 positions and they gave 2 of us a month to find something else internally. I found something else internally. It was actually quite a bit more money, but it was work that I didn't really like doing. So I end up job hopping around a bit, chasing more money. I talked about that in the I Quit video. Meanwhile, the property manager is able to get maybe about half the money that the guy owes in rent through city COVID relief funds. It wasn't exactly enough to cover the mortgage, but again, we had the reserves. We didn't want anybody to be thrown out in the street. So we just kind of let it float, let it go for a while until the property management company transferred the account, my account, from one property manager to another. Now, this property manager, he actually goes and looks at the property, I guess for the first time in 2 years, and it's a problem. I should also mention that when COVID started, a lot of the indicators I was seeing were like, this is going to last for like 18 months before we get a vaccine at the absolute soonest. So we're like, okay, we're not getting back on a plane anytime soon. I'm not driving back to Pittsburgh to work on any more houses. So let's start looking for property. We ended up here. And then we finally did end up spending some of that mortgage money on the down payment for the property here, which was significant because it's raw land. You can't get a loan on raw land for your 3.5%, Fannie Mae down payment kind of thing. We had to find, there's one credit union that would lend us the money, but we had to have like a 25% down payment. So the new property management guy messages me and he's like, hey, I can't get a hold of the tenant. He won't respond to my calls. I drove by the house and took a look. There's broken windows. It looks like they had a dog when they're not supposed to. And quick side note on dogs, I personally don't give a shit if you have a dog or a pit bull or whatever, as long as it's well behaved. You know who does care? My insurance company. The insurance companies are the ones that say you can't have pit bulls, you can't have certain kind of breeds and all that kind of stuff. So if you're ever pissed off at a landlord for not letting you have whatever kind of dog you want, it's not their fault. It's the insurance company. And you know why the insurance company doesn't allow you to have those kind of animals? It's because of money, because they've had to pay out too many insurance claims based on those kinds of breeds. So nobody's doing anything malicious there. No one's like trying to shit on your favorite breed of dog. It's just that's what the data says. Also, that's why a lot of things that landlords don't let you do is because the insurance company won't let them let you do it. Anyway, end of insurance company rant. Oh yeah, broken windows, dog, there's trash all over the front yard. It was a big problem. Now originally when we bought it, we thought, as I said, that we would buy multiple properties in the same area and maybe become part of that community. Now, after COVID, we bought this property. So we didn't have any intention really of going back there. So I said, okay, let's try and sell it. And that's what I tell the property manager. Okay, there's a bunch of issues. Sounds like it's time to sell anyway. Then the property manager tells me he got a hold of the tenant and that the tenant hasn't been paying the utilities and that the pipes burst in the basement and flooded it. So the problem I spent a month trying to fix has now happened again. New tool. I think this was like 60 bucks. There's a friggin' lizard right there. Hello, Mr. Lizard. Please don't go in the tent. Hey, buddy. How's that tarp taste? Cool. Have a good one. So the tenant, Damone, was well past his year-long lease, had moved on to a month-to-month lease, was given 60 days to vacate the property so we could try and sell it. So I get an email today from the property manager saying, good news, he's vacated the property early. Bad news, apparently he's absolutely trashed it. The sheetrock is off the ceiling in most of the rooms. Here's pictures he sent. So right now we're trying to sell our primary residence. We were going to use the money from that to buy a mini excavator or trackhoe, backhoe, something for leveling out stuff like this. But no, it doesn't look like that's going to be an option. So I guess we're just going to have to go a lot more slowly and do stuff by hand. And I don't know what we're doing. I don't know if we're going to have to go back to Pittsburgh and I'm going to have to try and renovate this house again to save tens of thousands of dollars and just try and get it sold and be done with it. I don't know if we're going to have to pursue some kind of legal action. I don't know if our insurance will cover that. I was looking through the documentation today and it said that vandalism's covered, but not if it's by the tenant, which seems odd. I don't know. There's just so many variables in this that I didn't know enough about to get right, I guess. And so now, here we are. And taxes. I guess I didn't even mention taxes. Coming up on tax time. I don't know what our taxes are going to be. When we sold the stock to get the property, that ended up being a $15,000 tax bill, due to the fact that this property hasn't made $3,000 a year in agricultural whatever. I think it loses its agricultural exemption, and so that's probably going to be like another $15,000 in taxes for this. There's a rat building a nest in my truck. There's a rat building a nest in my truck. Ah, there he was. He's moving around in there. I've seen him a couple times. He chewed the strap off the battery, or she, maybe, I don't know. Whichever one builds nests. I saw their beady little eyes. I popped open the trunk and I'm not gonna say it jumped up at me, but it popped out and scared the hell out of me. So I don't need it like eating shit in my trucks. It's been sitting here a couple days, so I'm gonna start it up and hopefully scare the fucker away. Fuck off, mouse! The other vehicle has a check engine light on after we just spent $1,500 getting it fixed. Shit's stressful right now. And we just got back from our primary residence, having to deal with a bunch of crap there because we hired an estate sale guy who seemed totally legit to go through and sell all of our stuff. And then he subcontracted out to some cleaners who were supposed to get everything else out of the house that didn't sell and make it sale ready. Well, they started taking appliances and stuff that was wired into the walls. So we had to go up there and deal with that and might have to pursue legal action against them as well. This is the society I want out of. Let's just say none of this is going smoothly. Enough whinging, more digging. You see these billionaires talk about how they work really hard for their money. And while I think that's partly true, it also misses the point. The hardest I ever worked was when I was at Burger King, 17, making minimum wage. You don't just get ahead in life by working hard. You got to take risks. It was a risk for us to buy a house in Pittsburgh. It was a risk for us to go live in Korea for a year. It was a risk for me to quit my job, stable, secure job, 2 different times to go do something else because I wasn't happy. This whole property thing was a risk, and we accepted it. And we were okay with losing the money for if the house didn't rent, or if there was a global pandemic and somebody couldn't pay their rent, and it just slowly chipped away at our savings to let them stay there. We were okay with that. I guess what I didn't expect and should have, and what really hurts, is that someone would go through and maliciously destroy something that I had worked so hard to create. Somebody that doesn't even know me. Somebody that lived in my house for over 2 years. I guess that's the part that gets me. Not even so much the money. We'll figure that out. We always have. Yeah, the thing that gets me and stresses me out is that somebody would do that. I guess from that, what really stresses me out is that I spent probably $75,000 to just learn that people are shit, that people can be shit, that you need to defend against people who are shit. Not everyone is shit. But given my upbringing, I guess I thought I would have known that. Sorry, the billionaire thing. That's one of the things that good friend of mine who also has a couple rental properties. Something that we determined that in order to be a good landlord, you have to be relentless. You can't give anyone anything. No cutting anyone breaks. Follow all the good rules. We determined that we're just not bad enough people to be good landlords. And with that context, I guess, I can certainly see how people can say it's immoral to have that much money. What would you have to do? We know what you would have to do. Force your employees to piss in bottles and shit in bags. Attack your opponents and call them pedophiles publicly. I guess through this whole process of this video that we're doing right here, it reaffirms that I just want to stay here. I want to get rid of all of other obligations, primary residence or rental house, and not necessarily withdraw from society. Certainly keep it at arm's length. Still a lot of good out there, but it's too complicated, too much of a mess to maintain your sanity, I guess. I hope my cautionary tale will be helpful to you in some way. Hopefully it wasn't just depressing. Honestly, I feel a little better now, a little more clarity. Guess I better get this level. For those of you who are looking on an update on the geodesic dome, I guess this is it. Getting this leveled, and then we'll get it put up. I really did expect a lot more rocks. If you've got any thoughts or comments or questions or whatever, I'm happy to engage with that down in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I'm sure some of you folks know a lot more about this than I would. You know, I suppose even after all that, at the end of the day, I'm still way better off than Damone is. So Damone, if you're out there, I hope life treats you better.
These shoes.
Yeah. Your shoes are on the wrong feet, babe.
I don't care.
All right.
I don't care very much. That one broke too, so.
That's good.
I don't care if they break. I'm sorry. Oh man.
It's all right. Keep going.
Dropped one.
So it's been a couple days. This guy's about done. Not quite, but close enough. I think you get the idea. Moving a little more dirt from the top side here to the downside here and leveling it out with the big rake. Not bad. In the meantime, we've also gotten a call from an investment company in Pennsylvania that wants to buy our Pittsburgh house. There's money to be made there by, fixing it up, renting it out, and flipping it, basically. So we'll see how that goes. We've definitely got our scam alert on high, trying to look through everything that they are and what they're doing and all that. We're trying to stay positive, but as soon as both houses get done,
I'll be there in a minute.
as soon as we get rid of both houses and get taxes done, which should be any frickin' day now, then we'll have a much better idea of where our finances are and how long we can hope to stay out here. I mean, hopefully indefinitely, and we'll figure some other stuff out. But yeah, we're trying to stay positive.
Trying to stay positive. Yep.
Yeah.
On a happy note, my hair looks really fancy. My kids say I look like a rock star. So
they've got a play date, and I'll be at the library editing this video.
Yep.
Now it's time for some breakfast, which is probably going to be McDonald's because even though it's nice and bright and sunny out here, it's 28 degrees
frozen.
and everything's frozen. and we just don't have the energy for that today. And
Yeah.
part of staying positive is knowing when to
Yeah.
spend a little money to save your mental health. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, so
Definitely.
we're off. And leave the comments and the likey, subscribey thingies in the thing if you want. I don't care. Whatever. We're just doing. Okay, bye.
All right. Bye.